Oh, the streets are cold and grey, but the fire in our hearts won't stray from the pitch where dreams collide. We'll stand together side by side. Oh, when the Spurs go marching in, when the Spurs go marching in, I wanna be there in that number. Oh, when the Spurs go marching in, from the north to Wembley's light, under stars we own the night. With every cheer and every song, we've been here all along.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Prjctspurs special edition podcast, looking at the impending signing or agreement with Igor Tudor, then potentially, as it seems, the new interim Tottenham Hotspur manager until at least the end of the season. We're going to get into all of that more. We've got some special guests joining us as well. Carlo from the Italian Football Podcast. Hill will be chiming in with some thoughts as well. We've got Phil back with us, Billy T as well, and Joseph. Just to make everybody fully aware of what's happening, Tottenham Hotspur have reached a verbal agreement with Igor Tudor to become the new interim head coach. The 47-year-old Croatian is set to join Tottenham on a contract until the end of the season with no permanent option. He arrives with big club experience at Juventus, Lazio, and recently in Marseille as well. And apparently the process has been heavily led by Vinay Venkatesham and Yoang Lang. I'm sure Fabio Paratici's Black Book was also used during that period as well. Tudor agrees to take interim charge at Tottenham, but also leaves the door wide open for a summer return to Mauricio Pochettino. Igor does have a history of steadying ships, and Thomas Frank's super tanker definitely needs saving. So, Billy T, just coming to you, my friend. What was your initial reactions to the impending appointment of Igor Tudor?
Yeah, I was very surprised, to be honest. It was not really a linked name until this morning. He's been linked in the past when Prjctspurs was here, was mentioned a couple of times online, no concrete links. And then it just came out of nowhere and then went spiraled very quickly into being, Ornstein got involved and Romano got involved. So, yeah, it was a real shock. I saw links to Rose and Terzic in the morning, which I thought were more likely. And, yeah, it just came out of absolutely nowhere. And, yeah, surprise. I'll be honest, I don't know much about this guy whatsoever. We've faced him against Marseille, but I don't particularly remember much about the game. I just know that Højbjerg obviously scored the winner. Yeah, it's just a real surprise. And I put a tweet out saying, can anyone tell me anything about this guy? Initially, it was a very negative response, to be honest with you. Lots of people were very critical of this move. But I think as time has gone on, I think people have said, well, he seems like a specialist interim rather than someone that's going to be here for long term. And that's what he's going to be at Tottenham. But yeah, just complete baffled, to be honest. Didn't really see it coming. I don't know much about him to make an opinion on it. But yeah, not something that I would have imagined to wake up to this morning.
No, like Joseph Billy was saying, we had a host of different names this morning. But I mean, in our group chats, it was Marco Reus, it was Heitinger, it was Mason, it was everybody in between. And the one name that wasn't on there was Igor Tudor. And then all of a sudden it just sort of a bomb drops and then all of a sudden he's here. You are somebody that watches Italian football just like me. You were saying just before we came on that Igor is somebody you're familiar with. So just give us your initial reactions to the impending appointment.
Yeah, for me, I'm not too excited about the appointment. It wasn't one that I would have gone for in our situation. Obviously, my knowledge on Igor Tudor mainly comes from watching Juve and being a fan of Juventus, and obviously kind of seeing how he replaced Thiago Motta as interim. and kind of steadied the ship slightly, but then it all kind of went off the rails as soon as he went into the second kind of season. He kind of came in probably about a month later from where we are now. He came in at the start of March, really, for Juve. Again, he had obviously had Colin Wani there, and he had he had some good players, but it's not the Juve of old, so it isn't the best side. But he guided them to a Champions League finish, which was steady. Everything that he did was quite steady. But then obviously where it went wrong was as soon as that next season started, he got sacked in October, which was one of the quickest managerial sackings that Juve ever had. So it's one that comes with a lot. I can understand the frustration from fans. I can understand kind of the worry. And I'll be honest, when I first initially saw it, I was worried because what is in my head is the end of his tenure at Juve and how poor Juve were. And obviously that led to them getting rid of him and getting Spalletti in. There was a total of 360 minutes in a row towards the end where they didn't score a goal. So in 4 games, they didn't score 1 goal. And that's with the likes of Lois Openda, Kenan Yildiz, Francisco Conceição, Vlahovic, Jonathan David. Like, there's some really quality European forwards there that couldn't score and they couldn't get anything going. And that's quite poor considering when you look at our attack and what we've got available to us, it doesn't really match up with what Juve had. And then you've also got to say, 8 games at the end of his tenure, winless run is really, really poor. So it's definitely one that is. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I mean, I think as time's gone on, I'm starting to understand why they've done it. Again, the interim basis of what he's done, it was impressive, but it's still the fact that I don't think he's a very good manager. I don't think he is, and I'm worried to see what he can do with the team he's got available to him. Because even though Juventus aren't a great side, most of them were fit when he kind of came in, and he didn't have such an issue with injuries.
Yeah.
Where he's coming in for us, he's kind of got a Tottenham B team, and
he demands quite a high intensity output as well, very high press, lots of energy, especially from sort of the amount that I watch. And like I say, I've been obsessed with Serie A since I was 10 maybe. So I watch a lot of it. He is very, very disciplined, I think is a good way, and I think we need that. I just don't know if the squad is quite there. But Phil, just coming to you, as we said before, there was a number of German figures being touted, and I thought you might be the perfect person. And all of a sudden, an Italian comes from Croatian from Italy comes from nowhere. What was your initial reactions when that bomber came out?
I was gobsmacked, to be honest, because it literally came from nowhere. It was a bit of a crazy day, wasn't it? Because this morning there was all those rumours going around generally, and then there was still the stuff about Poch, like we're trying to get him now, or we're investigating getting him now. And then that Marco Rosa kind of little mini bomber came with the odds at the bookmakers, putting him straight in at 6-4. And I think number 2 on the list was still like 5 or 6-1. So that was a bit weird. I don't know. I'm not an expert on how they set the odds and stuff, but I can only imagine that someone, for whatever reason, laid a massive amount of money.
They must have done. Right? And equally, I didn't see Tudor's name at all in anything. Did you? I've not seen his name anywhere. No bookies, nothing.
Tudor was nowhere to be seen. And after the Marco Rose and then Terzic, been linked with us in the past, the ex-Dortmund manager, one of Klopp's guys, kind of, let's say, or Klopp's disciples, dropped as well. I was desperately trying to find out here in Germany, like, whether there was any truth in that. And, well, truth be told, I couldn't find anything, even through some contacts that I know. There was nothing online. So all that also must have been very loose interest by the club, I would have said, right, at some point. But yeah, look, then from nowhere, it just dropped. And it was a bit of rumours, wasn't it, that he was in talks. And then it was, he's been made an offer. And then it was like the verbal offer's been accepted. And then Ornstein, as always, dropped the news. And yeah, I was gobsmacked when it landed. Truth be told as well, I was angry when it landed.
You were very angry. The group chat was going.
I lost I lost control for a few minutes, and I just had, angry thoughts about Vinay and about Johan Lange, and then I
We'll
was
get
thinking
into
about
them. We'll get into them a little.
Paratici.
We'll get to those guys as well. But I want to be cautious that Billy's going to leave us shortly as well. We'll go into more detail on what we reckon is going to happen with Lang and Paratici, because I think Vinay, because I think you, Phil, Joseph, probably all in alignment that perhaps they need to go. But in terms of Igor Tudor, so Tudor has been out of work since being sacked by Juventus in October 2025, following an 8-game winless run, leaving the Serie A club just 8th. 47-year-old had a varied managerial career, having stints at Lazio, Marseille, Galatasaray, Udinese, among others. And he's led his hometown club, Prjctspurs, to the Croatian Cup in 2013. It's the only trophy he's won as manager. During a 9-year stint there as a player with Juventus, he's won Serie A twice and finished runner-up in the 2003 Champions League final. Tudor was also part of a Croatian squad that was knocked out at the 1998 World Cup semi-final stage, eventually finishing third. Billy, just coming to you, it's got not a bad football as in playing career. He's been in and around, obviously, Juventus as well. It hasn't gone quite the way he wants. However, this season, 24 games and picked up 1.58 points per game and finished, and this is his 7th job since 2020. Kind of a bit of a journey, man. Don't we need a bit more stability?
Yeah, I can definitely see that line of thinking. I think the weird thing about Tudor is apparently he seems to have a big impact when he starts, and then that sort of fizzles out. So maybe that's the thinking behind it. Is well, we've only got 12 games anyway, and his record after 12 games at these clubs. Someone's actually just messaged me here. So in his first 12 games at Marseille, he got 23 points, 18 points at Lazio, 27 points at Juventus, which is pretty decent running in 12 games. So yeah, maybe it's just a sort of, before he has a chance to fizzle out, we get rid of him in June then. And thank you very much. But I guess his experience as an interim is more, what we're looking for. And obviously, I don't think anyone will be picturing him staying full time or anything like that. And stats show that he could maybe be the sort of perfect guy to get us out of this mess. But I think, with anything, usually with Tottenham, if we get an appointment wrong, we have a disaster of a season and we get another manager. I think with this time, if this goes wrong, we could get relegated. So it's a massive, massive decision. It's huge.
That's the biggest worry, right? The way I've sort of put it is, if we think of how Conte played, Igor Tudor plays a similar style, favouring that 3-4-2-1 formation, 2 number 10s where possible. And he always tries to deploy a back 3. Clearly, we've been doing that in some games this season as well. Definitely would add leadership to a side that is currently lacking in it. Strong communicator, demands high work rate and work ethic, as we said before. It's a gamble both for Tottenham and Tudor, but it puts Tudor in a shop window in a new league. And for potentially a permanent role, maybe like something like Palace, something like that, coming in the
biggest
summer.
league as well, right? Like he'll get so
the
much.
Biggest league. So he's gone to France. He's been in Italy. He's been in Turkey because he was at Galatasaray. Now coming to England, putting himself out there again. I mean, it's a huge gamble. If Spurs stay in the league, it's a gamble that's paid off, and it's a permanent job waiting for him somewhere. And then we're ready to move on. If it goes wrong, like you say, Bill, I honestly dread to think what could happen to this football club.
Yeah, well, relegation sadly would be the answer to that question. And this is why whoever comes in, this is the biggest managerial decision they've had to make in my lifetime, and it's not gone the way which anyone sort of predicted it will go, which you could say is maybe bold or a gamble, or it's just. We're literally life or death at the moment in terms of our football club. Yeah. It's that close. If we don't start picking up some wins, then we will get relegated. It's as simple as that. So it's a huge. Whoever came in, it's a massive, massive call. I think I just did not see it going this way, as we spoke about at the beginning. But I think what might hopefully set us up is here. He's got good experience as an interim. He's done this. He's kept the team up before. He's been at some of the biggest clubs in the world: Galatasaray, Marseille, Lazio, Juventus. Huge experience in really tricky fan environments. I'm not sure what he'll think of our stadium if he's played at Galatasaray for a long time, but with our atmosphere, but there you go.
It's very, very true. So he does play an attacking, aggressive style of football on the front foot, defensively, as you would get really in Italian football. There's been a couple of comments in here from Juventus fans. We've had a couple of Juventus fans comment. Tudor's a very good interim manager. Not sure about full time though. And this one, Joseph, he likes Colin Mawani a lot, so he might perform better under Tudor. I think that is a plus that we can look at, that he did play very well under him at Juventus.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, obviously, I watched a lot of Juve last year, especially that second half after Thiago Motta went, because it was kind of dire under Thiago Motta. There's a reason why he needed to come out, and they needed Tudor to come in as interim. And Colin Mawani was obviously signed on loan for Juve during that time, and he was really impressive. It's one of the reasons why when Tottenham were linked with him at the end of the summer window, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. I like the idea of it, because I saw him at Juve and Colin Mawani was very impressive. He played really well. He was keeping other players out of the team. So he was very impressive. I don't know whose decision it was, obviously, for Juve not to get him back, because I know that Juve wanted him, but obviously they ended up going with Openda and Jonathan David. They didn't end up getting Colin Mawani over the line. And obviously Tudor was still there, so he probably would have had somewhat of a say if they were going to get him back or not. But there's a hope there that maybe Colin Mawani can kind of improve under Tudor, but again, you just don't know. It's a different. I think the thing that worries me the most about this appointment, even more than just my feelings on Tudor himself, is also the fact that he has not managed in the Premier League at all. Yeah. And the fact is, you've got 12 games left, and you can't get it wrong. He can't come in. There can't be this adjustment period. He needs to hit the ground running. Even if it's not the Arsenal game, it's got to be the Fulham game, or it's got to be the Palace game. He's got to win one of those next three. And if he doesn't, which might happen, because the Premier League is a different beast to every other league. Like, I'm sorry, that every game is tough in my opinion. I don't think that's the same in the Serie A. I think there's a couple of games there that you can go into and you think you should beat these teams quite comfortably. There isn't that. That isn't the case in the Premier League, especially at the moment.
No, he definitely needs to hit that ground running, doesn't he? Just coming back to you, Bill, before I let you go, so appreciate you need to leave us shortly. Tudor is not considered to. Tudor could be considered for the job on a permanent basis if he impresses in the role, but the former Spurs manager Mauricio Pochettino is also a candidate to permanently replace Thomas Frank, and his contract with the United States men's national team expires after the World Cup. Do you think this is quite a wise decision to keep options open?
I think it's a wise decision if we stay up. Yeah, definitely. I think obviously this move points to Pochettino, right? Like, we're not stupid like this. Everything about it points to Pochettino. I don't think not many people would have come and take this job. They know they're only going to be here till June. Tudor obviously has done that before in previous jobs, and he's happy to do that. And obviously, like you say, I imagine there's some kind of staying up bonus for him if he stays up. I mean, obviously, there's a world where, say, he wins like 9 games out of 12 or something. You might think, well, actually, maybe we should stick with him. But I think it's heavily geared towards Pochettino. For example, Robbie Keane, I know that a name that was used a lot. He sounded like he was reluctant to take it unless he was going to be, considered permanent manager after as well. And generally speaking, unless there's someone like, like a Harry Redknapp or a Jermaine Defoe, or someone who's already been at the club and came through the ranks of the club, then people are just not going to be interested to be here from now until June and nothing else. Managers want to be able to stay for long term. So I think all roads lead to Pochettino of this one. I think that's why. And I think obviously it's a shame that couldn't do that now. But with the World Cup being in America, him having a very expensive release clause, and him managing a home World Cup, that was going to be an impossibility. But I think this appointment surely leads towards Pochettino. I imagine is what will end up happening.
Yeah, I agree. Phil, are you in agreement with that? Do you think this is kind of the road we're sort of leading down here?
Yeah, I still think that Poch is the number one target for the summer, and I'm pretty sure that they will have been speaking with his representatives this week, obviously, just to kind of understand, number one, was there any opportunity to get him to do a dual role or get him out early? But then also kind of what's the planning for the summer? We know that he would probably join the squad quite late, right, after the World Cup, but that would apply to pretty much any of the World Cup players anyway, right, that have been called up. I think he's the plan for the summer, number one. I mean, I saw De Zerbi's still supposedly in the running. I can understand why would be interested in De Zerbi, you know, in terms of the type of football that he plays and the fact that he's Premier League experienced and he's relatively young still, you know. But you know, he's certainly not my choice to become the new manager. And I think all signs point to Poch, right? You know, it's probably the easiest deal still to do. And I would also imagine, well, who knows? We don't know whether they will try and like kind of shore it up already. You know, I know some of the press releases have said that, you know, they're going to wait until maybe even after the World Cup or the summer to kind of make anything official, right? But we don't know what they're going to do about that. And as we've said before, with Vinay and Johan Lange and the powers that be, we can't trust them, really, can we? We don't know what they're going to do. We didn't expect them to announce this probably today, even so fast. You know, I was very surprised that they made a very quick announcement today out of nowhere.
Well, it's not official. It hasn't officially dropped, has it? It's only it's only the David Ornstein, Fabio Paratici, your Matt Law, you know, big names that you know and kind of trust that these are things gonna happen. And Bill, because I'm gonna let you go, but before you do, obviously there was a lot of names touted today. Tudor being the man now until the end of the season, likely will join up on Monday for training. He likes to play with a back three, as we've said before, so we've played that a lot, so we can play the formation he generally likes. Is Arsenal at the weekend going to be a free hit for him, and then sort of judgment time really comes from Fulham?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, even the most optimistic Spurs fans would look at that Arsenal game as one that would be really difficult to win. What I will say is, you know, I think we've got much more of a chance now without Thomas Frank than we had before. I think in terms of the atmosphere of the game, I think if it would have been someone like Robbie Keane or, you know, Harry Redknapp or someone like that, then the atmosphere would have been crazy. Like, or imagine a world where Pochettino would have been walking out there. But I think there'll be a little bit of, because not really. I don't think the fan base will be too really sure on who this guy is. So I don't think the atmosphere will be like incredible, but I do think it would be better than it would if Thomas Frank was walking out. So I think the atmosphere will play a part. It's just such a massive ask to go and beat Arsenal, whoever you are, and I think we might see a manager bounce, but you know that it's the hardest possible team that you could play against in the country, isn't it? So I'm not expecting anything from it, but it'd be great if we could somehow nick something. And like I say, I do think we've got more chance now. What I do want to see, though, is just a bit of fight in that game. You know, we were so bad in that away fixture; it was absolutely horrific. And I think if fans see that at the North London derby, then we go and beat Fulham. I think that'll be a really good start for him.
Absolutely. Bill, appreciate you joining us again, my friend. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon. Take care. Thanks, Billy, for joining us. There is just over 1,000 of you watching at the moment live, which do really appreciate you joining us. If you can, head over to YouTube, drop us a like, subscribe, Project Spurs. Just the spelling is at the top left or right-hand corner, however you are viewing this. I'm going to play a little voice note I got from the Italian Football Podcast. This is Carlo, the host of it. I asked him earlier, what did he think of the appointment, or pending appointment, should we say, of Igor Tudor?
Way, it's absolutely fine. In terms of playing style, he's not super modern in terms of, you know, like with Thomas. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by this. I've just seen this now because I've been working. I see it's till the end of the season. I mean, if he's a long-term choice, I would say very underwhelming. But as given your situation and your precarious position in the Premier League and everything, I guess you just need someone that's going to give you a bit of a bounce, and you manage a bounce. And he's actually shown that at Lazio and at Juventus in his previous jobs to be really good at that. When he took over Juventus at the end of last season, he had a really good impact at the end of last season. This season wasn't good at all, and eventually lost his job. So he seems to be good at kind of firing up the players for a short period. So I guess that's kind of what you need in the Premier League, seeing as you're 5 points above the relegation zone. So I guess that's good, but I don't see him as a long-term solution for Spurs. And you should definitely be aiming for bigger and better managers than Tudor, I would say. But yeah, I mean, Colin Moani worked really well under him last season, second half of last season. So maybe he can get the best out of him. Yeah, he's had a few issues with players, like run-ins with players in the past. Certainly at Lazio and at Marseille, he had a lot of issues. Not so many at Juventus, although he didn't really kind of inspire them this season. But yeah, I guess the positive side is like he's a tough character, so he should be able to maybe fire them up over the next month or so and get enough points to keep you up. I know that sounds a bit depressing, but yeah, I'll put it this way. I wouldn't expect him to be, I don't expect him to be your manager next season.
So that was Carlo from the Italian Football Podcast. If you do like your Italian football, like me and Joseph, do head over and listen to them. Really great guys. Him and Nima, fantastic, really, really good knowledge of the game, especially in and around Italian football. Both of them are Italian, English speaking. Very, very good. So yeah, head over to the Italian Football Podcast for all your Italian football needs. Joseph, just coming to you. Sounds like we've got a tough cookie coming, but someone that's not afraid to maybe say things how it needs to be if he's having disagreements with players. To be honest, the stuff coming out about Thomas Frank and the training and attitude of players, we might need that discipline going into a really difficult February and March.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I would say about him. I like his energy and his, he seems like a real professional. It felt sometimes like Thomas Frank was like a bit like a dad, put his arm around players, kind of just not be this stern manager that sometimes you need, especially when you've got a squad of very young players. And let's be honest, players that think they've made it when they haven't really made it yet. Yeah. I feel like we have a lot of those players where they think they're up here, but they're not up here, they're down here. So hopefully he can kind of run it in a way where they believe in him and they listen to him and they follow him. That's what can be a bit scary though, because I don't trust our players to get behind somebody. Again, I think a lot of them think they're better than a relegation battle. Yeah, that's where we are right now. So we need them all to really kind of instill into Tudor's, style of play and what he wants them to do. And yeah, there's the idea of him playing that back three, I think it could work for us. With the players we've got, I think it would work, especially our wing backs, with Sousa. I hope he gets a bit more game time with him being quite a natural wing back on that left, especially with the doggy out. And then Porro on the right. If Porro comes back soon, he could be the perfect right wing back for Tudor's system. But it's obviously, again, we don't really have the centre backs available right now. Obviously, we know Danzo's out for a long period of time, most likely. Romero's obviously suspended, so he's going to have to probably play Dragusin, Van der Ven, and maybe Paulinho in the back three. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all unfolds. Again, I can't say I'm not nervous, just because the first half of this season under Tudor was really poor for Juve, really poor. They didn't play good football. Players couldn't seem to get anything going, and there was no real belief. Everything felt so dull. So it's a bit scary in that sense. But if he can gather the players together, make them realise the severity of the situation, and be like, look, we've just got to play our hearts out and play, do everything we can to pick up any kind of points, then that'll be good. Because it didn't feel like we were like that under Frank. It felt like we were just kind of giving up. So that's what we've got to hope he can do.
Absolutely. I did speak to Carlo further on from his voice note and said, to be honest, we just need basic confidence building to start with. He said, yes, to be fair, it would probably be good for this. He said he did have a pretty substandard Juve squad to work with last season and got a joint out of them. So there is some promise of that he could come in and give it an immediate bounce. If you look at some of the record, Phil, just before I come to you, he joined Juventus last March before he was made permanent manager. He had 9 games, 5 wins, 3 draws and 1 defeat. He also, the year before, same time in March, joined Lazio, played 9, 5 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss, exactly the same record. That is perfect for it. If we could get 5 wins out of the next 9 games, well, you know,
That's all we need.
he's a Croatian. He's another Croatian hero for us, right? Because he's keeping us in the league.
It's all we need. You know, we only need really 3 or 4 wins in the worst case. You know, literally possibly 3, right, with a draw or 2. If he keeps up that form, he's perfect for what we need. And look, I mean, you know, he's going to be highly respected, I think, by the players. You know, still, you know, I know, like when people heard the news about Igor Tudor, if you ask your average football fan, what do you think of Igor Tudor as a manager? If you even know his track record as a manager, right? A lot of football fans might say, "Oh, he's no good," or I don't know, he's never really done that much anywhere. You know, but like he was a fantastic football player, right? When he played, you know, he's one of Croatia's best ever defenders. I know very soon there's going to be like the best ever Croatian defender, right, bursting onto the scene officially, right, for us. But you know, he's very highly respected amongst players. You know, he's very good friends with Antonio Conte. You know, and Conte is always talked very highly of him as well. They won trophies together at Juve. And I think that he will get respect from the players because of his track record and his history in the game. And that's all we need from him, is to come in, apply discipline. Because, yeah, you mentioned it before, but some of these reports coming out of how things were, you know, under Thomas Frank are quite shocking, really. You know, like the players
it's
constantly
disrespectful,
being
actually, isn't it?
Disrespectful. We've said on the pod, on this pod, you know, many times as well, that there's certain non-negotiables in football, but also in life, right? You know, turning up on time, you know, the commitment that you're showing, you know, never being late, all this kind of stuff, right? And this is what our players haven't been doing, and he will install that into us. He will bring, you know, hopefully through the way that he is, a bit of extra energy, a bit of motivation to the players, you know. And his track record, as you said, it has been to come into a club, let's say, to almost get a win rate of 50% and to reset them maybe a bit and get them winning football games again. And as Joseph said, you know, the fact that he plays or likes to play a 3-4-2-1 formation, that's pretty much the same formation that Thomas Frank started trialing with some success.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the Oliver Glasner formation, which has been in fact, you know, he plays very similar to Glasner, let's say, Igor Tudor, in terms of what he wants and what he wants his football teams to do. And I think if you look at the squad that we have, we're better set up still for a 3 at the back than a 4 at the back. And if you look at the players that we still have available and fit, okay, we hope we don't get more injuries coming now, but we still have a lot of good players that fit that system. You know, Xavi in one of the number 10 roles. I hope that Sousa gets a chance on the left to give that balance, but okay, we can still play Spence there, you know, theoretically, but I want Spence starting on the right. You know, midfield, we've got Archie Gray, hopefully starting midfield with Conor Gallagher. You know, Dominic Solanke's fit. And then we've still got people like Janai Byfield who can maybe come into that defence if needed, you know, on the right-hand side. But we've got Palina as well. So we've got all these players, you know, even Vic, right? We've talked about Vic a lot. We know what his challenges have been. I've been calling for Kinski to get game time. I don't know if that's going to happen under Tudor, bearing in mind that Tudor obviously speaks perfect Italian. You know, he has that affinity. Maybe it means just, you know, because of their experience in Serie A and everything else, that he can have build a relationship with Vic quite quickly. And, you know, that he brings him a bit more confidence maybe as well. Who knows? These are all things that could happen. So look, you know, when I heard the news earlier on, I was gobsmacked and I was angry. And I was just thinking about what are our leaders doing in the club? What are our senior executives doing? It looks like a lazy choice as well because of the Prjctspurs connection, right? You know, the fact that Prjctspurs wanted Tudor to come in, you know, in November even, or whenever it was, as a potential replacement for Frank. But look, when I take the emotion away, I actually think whether it was a lazy choice, whether we had no other idea what to do, I think it could turn out to be a pretty clever choice in the end, or a good fit for us.
You could do, because you look at Conte. Conte plays the same formation, and I felt that we played quite well under Conte at times. Right, finished fourth under him anyway. They come from the same club, same formation, like you say, Phil. We were trying this 3-4-2-1 anyway, and I thought we were having success with it. And then at the weekend, we decided to go back to a 4-2-3-1, which just made no sense to me and had more players out of position. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I want him to come in and just install some real discipline into this squad, but installing that discipline, but confidence. These players need confidence, and ultimately, just say go and unlock them, allow them to go and play and express themselves, and that's the hope that this happens.
The one thing on top of that, I'd say, Gary, is that he plays that Conte kind of style of football. But he plays, I guess, if he's got he would ideally play a high pressing style as well. So not being a passive. I mean, Conte, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but Conte would never really be seen as the ultra high pressing kind of manager, right? He's still a bit more, on occasion he has done that, and on occasion he plays that, right? If he's probably got the right players, as he would say. But in my opinion, I think Conte does play a bit more passive, a bit more kind of a bit mid-block, generally, and then try and hit a bit more on the break. But what I think is that, if he installs a discipline and gets some of those players to not worry about making mistakes, right? So like, even if it is playing the pass quicker, playing the pass forwards, I don't think that that Igor Tudor is a particularly like ultra tactical manager, that like it has to only go in that way, and there's very complicated ways again of looking at the opposition to nullify their threats. I don't think he's quite on that level, so that may help us as well in terms of just maybe, as we said, take the handbrake off the players a bit, because it just looked under Thomas Frank in the end that the players were scared to make mistakes again, that they they didn't want to play that forward pass, maybe not because they were told not to, but because they were scared or they didn't have the confidence to do it. And I'm hoping, knowing now maybe a bit more about Tudor, having done the research, obviously done a deep dive, speaking with different people, that maybe he can just get those players to play a bit freer again. And we're not, obviously probably a lot of us would have been hoping we get in straight away a more progressive manager again, someone who from day one is going to just go to the players and say, look, wake up, be positive, just play football. I want you to pass the ball forwards. I want you to kind of play it, play a bit more attacking kind of from the mentality, 4-3-3 or whatever. There's not many options out there probably right now.
There isn't really. I think there's not a lot of options around. And I think the good thing that, like what Carlo was saying, is that he's not going to come in and be overly expansive. He's going to be very direct, very basic, kind of what we need. But Stefano Bonafio, I probably butchered your name, but I do apologise, from Transfer Mark, had this to say about Tudor. He said Tudor plays an aggressive football with strong focus on defence and ball possession. He favours counter-attacks and quick direct moves. A three-man defence is almost mandatory with him. He arrived at Juventus last summer with plenty of spectalism, easy for me to say. His reputation is still being built before arriving at Juve. A few fans were happy with him, but those defended him did so more because of his club history and his mentality. So the history of him being at the club is what they were defending him more on. But many wondered if he was up to the task of managing a big club, and being sacked shortly after confirmed those doubts. At Tottenham, he finds a team that's already used to a back three, and it has been in the past. Also, he finds the club in a bit of a mess. With his sergeant-like mentality, it could immediately make an impact on the environment. So a bit like we were just saying there, Joseph, he can come in and almost immediately now the basics down, get the basics in, and just show a bit of confidence building, but discipline. And I think that's what's needed.
Yeah, I think the one, I mean, that's 100% needed for the players we've got available. But I think the one thing that still worries me is just the injury list and what he's going to have available to him. Now, I said this in the group chat earlier. The thing that worries me is that this squad, I don't think is, or the players that we've got available, I don't think our team is any better than any of the teams we're up against. I think West Ham's team is as good as the team that we have available to us right now. And that's the same with Forest. I think that's the same almost with Leeds probably, and with Crystal Palace. And again, they have a better feeling around their clubs at the moment anyway than we do. And that is down to our injuries. I think if we didn't have those injuries, there's no reason why we would be in this relegation fight. But the fact is we are, and we still don't have many of these players coming back anytime soon. Now, what we've heard is that Porro may be available soon. Richarlison might be coming back soon. So there's hope that some players will be coming back, but you've still got the likes of Danzo out long term. You've got Kulusevski and Maddison that probably won't feature all year, most likely. We don't really know about Maddison, but Kulusevski looks like he's done. There's other players, Kudus, we've got no idea when he's coming back. There's just so many really important players that would be integral to this system and to us getting out of this situation. And the fact is, we're going into this game against Arsenal, and I have zero belief we're going to get any kind of result because of how little we have available to us. We're going to have to probably start Paulinho in a back three. Archie Gray is going to play. Most likely he could end up, if he for some reason was playing at right back or he was playing in midfield. It's just so many players. I mean, I've got no idea what the forward line is going to look like now. Odebear's out with an ACL. That's massive. So, we're thinking about it, and it's just the players we're going to have available to us. I don't think is any better than anything we're coming up against. So I'm going into every game thinking this is an even match. Beforehand, when we were going into, like when we went into that West Ham game, I was thinking we're better than this West Ham team. We can beat this West Ham team. I'm not feeling that going into any game. Definitely not against Arsenal. But then you've got Fulham and you've got Palace. I don't think our team is better than Palace's right now. I really don't. And that's what's the worrying thing. I think every game we're going into, and it is on an even keel. Now, for Tudor, when he came in at first with Juve, now again, like I said, this is not the Juve of old. The defence was shocking. Lloyd Kelly starting for Juve with Daniel Rugani, and Bremer was injured, so they had Federico Gatti. And that is not a good back line, in my opinion. But that back line was better than a lot of the back lines they saw in the Serie A towards the end of last season. So as much as Juve weren't the best Juve side you've ever seen, they were still better than a lot of the teams in the Serie A at the time. So going into that, he still kind of had that. But right now with Spurs, I don't think he's got that. I don't think he's got better players available to him than all the other Premier League teams do. So that's what's worrying me a bit. I just think it's going to be such a big ask for a manager who has no experience in the Premier League, with basically a B team available to him, with the amount of injuries we've got, 10, 13 players still injured. And a lot of these long-term, not coming back players as well. That's what's worrying me the most. Again, the Arsenal game, I see it as a bit of a free hit, and that's fine. But you've then got Fulham. Fulham or Palace, you need to win one of those games. And ideally, you need to win both.
Absolutely. So Tudor's remit at Tottenham is 12 games, Phil. He's got 12 games. His first 12 games, as Billy said earlier, if you didn't catch this before, Marseille got 23 points out of those first 12 games. Lazio was only in charge for 9, but he got 18 points. And at Juventus in his first 12 games, got 27. We just need a few more points to get us safely away. I understand a lot of what Joseph's saying and the worrying concern because of the squad depth that we've got right now. But surely if he's coming in, he needs to hit the ground running. But I'm thinking it needs to be from Fulham. This is potentially a free hit for him.
For me, and it follows on a bit from what Joseph was saying about the teams and how good they are. For me, at the moment, it's all about the confidence of the players and like how likely we are to go out into the match and start the match on the right footing and at the right level and show that energy and that desire. We're missing a lot of players, and actually a lot of these other teams around us at the moment, to me, they just, they're on a bit of a run, aren't they? West Ham, obviously, Leeds are playing good football. They look they just look like better teams. They look like better teams in terms of they know what they're supposed to be doing,
and
on
they
the
look
pitch,
united.
and
they look
do.
united.
That's
they
the
look
worry. That's the biggest
they look
worry, isn't it?
united, and they pass the ball effectively, and they look like they've got more speed than us. They look faster than us on the pitch somehow, right? And for me, like, it's less about, okay, we've been complaining about Thomas Frank's tactics this season, that we're not playing progressively, we're not like making things happen, we're not taking the game to the opposition. That's one thing. But I think our biggest issue at the moment is just that when we go out onto the pitch, we're not bringing full levels of commitment, energy. And as I said, that confidence is missing, that we know that we can pass the ball and the players are kind of in the right positions on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? And I think that for like Fulham, okay, Arsenal, it's a free hit, right? We expect to lose it. But you never know, right? If we could somehow get the players in next week, right? There's 5 whole days of training next week, right? 5 whole days on the training ground, 5 whole days of hopefully Igor Tudor, sitting with the players.
Arsenal have a game on the Wednesday, don't they? I think Arsenal
They do,
got
yeah.
a game midweek as well as this weekend. They've got a game.
Yeah, they're playing Wolves, which do us a favour because we don't want Wolves to be picking up any points, really. So they've got a Wednesday and a Sunday, and we've got a free hit.
I think one of the things that is a little bit worrying, though, I think this is it's somewhat the best and the worst game he could be coming in for, because if he gets a result, well, that will inspire the fans and the players that they can go on and just survive. Whereas if we go into it and get battered, which could easily happen, because let's be honest, Arsenal are a great side. They're playing good football. I know they just got a draw against Brentford, but just overall this season, they're the most consistent team in the league, and they've got great players. If they get battered, all of that bounce is just gone, in my opinion. Like, the fan base, again, no matter, I know a lot of Tottenham fans are going to be going into this North London derby going, we're not going to win it. But still, if we do lose it, everyone's going to feel like shit. Everyone's going to feel down. Everyone's going to be pissed off.
It depends on
I think it depends on the performance as well. Yeah,
it depends how we play.
I think
Brentford did yesterday. Brentford yesterday, probably in the end, they were unlucky not to win, right? Arguably, right? But they took the game.
They had to work
Arsenal,
real hard. They had to work really, really hard for that as well. Look how hard it was for a point.
You could see the energy they were putting in and the commitment, every player.
Yeah.
If we go out next Saturday and we lose the game, look, even if we lose the game 3-0 or 3-1 or something, but we show that we're trying. But do you know what I mean? Like, the commitment is there, and we do have some good moments in the game.
I think the scoreline has to be close, because I think you can try hard, but if you lose 3-0, I don't think there's that feeling at the end of the game.
No.
Well, look ahead of the fixtures as well. The next run of fixtures, obviously Arsenal have got a midweek game before they pass. But the people around us that we need to really concern ourselves with is probably Leeds. It's definitely West Ham, and it's Nottingham Forest. Leeds are away at Aston Villa. So that's a difficult trip for them. You've got Bournemouth away at West Ham, and West Ham are picking up points at home. So that could be a sticky one. But Bournemouth have also playing well with their new signing. And then you've got Forest on the Sunday before us at home to Liverpool.
I can't believe they just drew to Wolves. That really surprised me. I mean, apparently they absolutely battered them. They just couldn't get the ball in.
They did. They had like 30 odd shots. So again, that's a very difficult. That could be a slippery slope for us. If you look at the following week, Bournemouth are at home to Sunderland. Sunderland started to hit a purple patch now, a bit similar to Forest last season. West Ham are away at Liverpool, which is a difficult situation, and Leeds are at home to Man City, and we've got Fulham away. So
I think the thing that you've got to say that is in Tudor's favour, I understand this next game against Arsenal is tough, but then you've got Fulham, which is winnable. You've got Palace, which is winnable. Liverpool, I'll say, I think you'll probably lose that. I know Liverpool haven't been great, but we always struggle away at Anfield. You've got Forest, which is massive. Forest at home, we should probably win. Sunderland away will be tough. But then you've got Brighton at home, who are really struggling. They could be within this kind of teams that could go down. You've got Wolves away, which is massive. You've got Villa away, which again, tough one. But then you've got Leeds at home. You've got Chelsea away, and then you've got Everton at home. There's a couple of games in there that realistically, most years you go, Tottenham can win this game. Tottenham should win this game. And if Tudor can get those games and win those games, the ones that we're expected to win, then yeah, we'll be fine. We won't go down. You know, if you win the ones you're expected to and lose the ones you're expected to, we would be fine. It's just we need that, and that's what we're not guaranteed, I guess, at the moment. I guess no one is in the Premier League somewhat, but it's just there's a couple of games there, and there's a lot of 6-pointers. Forest, Leeds, those games are ones we have to win. Palace as well.
If Tudor can get us competing again, like properly in the games, and maybe if he can get us being a bit more consistent over 2 halves rather than just this, first half rubbish, second half, oh, we tried kind of thing, but ultimately it's not good enough, then we'll pick up enough points. Look, we will pick up enough points. That's the reality. Like Tudor, he doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to perform miracles here. He just needs to keep things simple. Get the players like one by one, get them more united, get them more disciplined, and just try and build a bit more of a concept around his 3 at the back system, probably, right? And if he does that, and if he can just improve the levels by 10, 15, 20%, that'll be enough easily for us to stay up. That's the reality.
Yeah. So we got a question come from the chat. I'm assuming this is Adrian. Adrian, normally the one with the questions here. How would Igor Tudor know who to pick as a starting 11? I'm pretty sure he would have been following the Premier League quite intensively, as most people do. It's the best league really in the world. He's got to go in there. As like you say, Joseph, 12, 13 fit players. So it's not going to be too difficult.
Well, he hasn't got much to pick from, has he? So it's going to be kind of picking it for himself. But to be fair, again, he will do his research. I mean, he's got 3 days to kind of look back at everything that's been this season, what players are doing. There's going to still be some coaches there, I'm sure. Not I don't actually know what's happened with Thomas Frank's coaching staff. I don't know if anyone knows what's happening with them right now.
Well, we should probably find some of that out shortly. I'm assuming that is what they have been working on. That's why it's taken a little bit of time to announce Tudor. I think Tudor will be announced tomorrow, and with that, there'll probably be some of the coaching staff leaving. Look, there's about 20 people that is brought in under Thomas Franks. That's a lot of people. That's got to be spoken to. Got to be cleared if they want to stay. Does Tudor want them? Do they want to work with him? That's a lot of conversations to be 100%. Had. So I'm assuming a lot of that's been done now.
He has got Monday to Friday to figure out who he's liking from the training pitch, what he thinks can, how they'll set up in his system, what he's actually going to play with the system. Again, all of us can speculate and say, 3-4-2-1, but we don't know if that's actually what he'll do. He might change it up some way with the players that we've got available. We don't really know. So it's going to be interesting, but he'll be able to pick an 11 either from previous games, speaking to the players somewhat as well. I'm sure he'll get their input. You'd hope so. And again, that's one of the worrying things. He's the one thing I would say as well. I said it before, is the Premier League is a different beast. This isn't going to be simple. Every game is going to be tough, and you need to be on it, and you've got to get things right in every single game. And again, I'm not saying that the Serie A is completely so much worse, but there are teams towards the bottom of it, like Cremonense, like Lecce. They're not good teams.
Pisa.
They're poor. They're poor teams, and you can sometimes, because you have such better quality than they do, you can just kind of roll them over. That's not going to be the case now. Like, we go against Wolves away, or Wolves at home. Wolves away. Sorry, we played them at home, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. Even though they're the worst team in the Premier League, that will be tough.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, just because I know you need to leave in a moment, I've got a little question for you before you go. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Vinay and Joanne Langs, clearly, in my opinion, are out of their depth. Prjctspurs, by all accounts, wanted to bring Igor Tudor in around December time. Vinay and Joanne Lang didn't. Prjctspurs then started to speak to Fiorentina because effectively was probably fed up with these two. The Lewis family then at the weekend, by rumours that I've been told, decided to let Thomas Frank go at half time. So the Lewis family told Vinay and Joan Lang they had to let him go, and they still didn't want to, so they were effectively forced to. And after all of that, they went to Prjctspurs' little black book and went with his decision all along. Just let me know your thoughts on them before you guys. Appreciate you need to jump off at 7. They have to go in the summer as well, right?
It's a non-negotiable for me that they go. I think it's shocking. When Vinay joined the club, you know, I wasn't happy about the fact, you know, his Arsenal connections, right? The fact they'd been there so long. I think that's the same whenever we hire someone, right? Whether it's a player or a coach or anyone, right? Who's got that, you know, Woolwich connection. And it was no different to him. However, I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he's got an impressive track record, and we obviously needed someone in, you know, with his kind of, I would say, abilities, but you know what I mean, right? With his experience, right? At doing what Levy wanted him to do, essentially, right? Which is to be that CEO. However, since he's been here, he's disappointed me on every single part of his job description, right? What his deliverables are. And I don't even know what his deliverables are, actually, to be fair, but whatever he's done, he's disappointed. And whether it's, you know, again, bringing Prjctspurs back into the club, right? I didn't understand it. You know, it would have been his decision to keep Lange there and do this dual thing. The transfer window, utter disaster. His program notes, the interview, disaster. You know, at the time, maybe some would have said, oh, it was actually good and transparent that he did it. I think I did as well. I said, well, it's better than nothing. You know, at least he's coming out and saying he's going to increase the wages. But, you know, actions speak louder than words. Disaster. And, you know, his holding on to Thomas Frank, in retrospect, is shocking. Absolutely shocking. And you're right, Gary, you said it there. You know, the facts have come out from multiple sources that it was the Lewis family who made the decision that they can't go on anymore. And even then, they had to, you know, Vinay and Lange were kind of kicking and screaming, saying, no, we need to trust in him. We need to keep him there. And they were overruled in the end. You know, it's just an absolute disaster, you know, and it shows weak leadership, you know, zero decision-making ability, right? And then sticking to a decision. Levy would have, you know, for all of his faults around, you know, hiring people like football people, right? We know he's a good businessman, Levy. We know he made a lot of mistakes in terms of the football side. But for all of his faults, he would have fired Thomas Frank probably after the Arsenal game.
I think he would have had him. I think he definitely would have had that change for January, wouldn't he? Because we're in a position.
At the latest, he would have made that change. And they would have sat down at that point, and they would have gone into more detail around the transfer window. And I'm sure, I think that if Levy had still been here, I think we would have made transfers and we would have had more activity in the January transfer window, regardless. They have to go in the summer.
I said to you before, didn't I, that the reason I didn't think that we were making any transfers in the January market is because I didn't think Thomas Frank was going to be here, and I didn't think they wanted to spend that money. I mean, it's less than 2 weeks after, and it's already happened.
It's a complete and utter, you know, prime example of how not to run a football club, but also how not to run a business, right? Because if you're in any other business and you had to like swap out managers or directors or, you know, leaders or whatever else, you would have a contingency plan in place, which we haven't had. Unless Igor Tudor was always the plan, which it cannot be. You know, the only saving grace is that we haven't gone through like a short list of 25 people now to find the interim, you know, and like carried out interviews the whole of next week or something to then go through some weird point scoring system to then decide on whoever it may have been, you know. And I don't even trust them that they're going to bring Pochettino in the summer after the World Cup. And I just hope, as we've heard today, that maybe they're going to wait until after the World Cup to make the permanent manager decision or hire, whether they agree with Pochettino or not. The only saving grace on that is that they line Pochettino up, but then they fire the powers that be, fire Vinay and Lange in the summer or at the end of the season. We have no guarantees they're going to do that, but from what it sounds like, their cards have been marked, and Vinay cannot have a very good standing right now with the Lewis family and also with Bucha. Is it Boycha or Bucha? He cannot have a good standing at the moment.
No.
So we all have to pray. We all have to protest if needs be. And it's one thing saying ENIC out. It's one thing, Billy T and everything, the great work that he's doing and the others are doing with Change of Spurs. That's one thing about the ownership of the club. Right now, I would add into that on a very specific, narrow, part of it, protest about our CEO, protest about who is making the decisions at the moment in the day-to-day running of the club, because he is a massive step down from Daniel Levy.
Yeah, it is, and it's weird that in part I've seen quite a lot of replies, Joseph, that Daniel Levy. I mean, I walked out of the game against Newcastle, and people were saying to me Daniel Levy wouldn't have stood for this, even though we hated him or didn't like some of the things he said. He wouldn't have stood for this. I mean, we're at that point.
I think so. I'm going to say something a bit different here. I think I completely agree. I think the way that I will look at each kind of role. So you go manager. I think they're kind of judged on a game by game basis, most likely. I think the sporting director needs to be judged on a transfer window basis.
Yeah.
The CEO, for me, I think it's tough to judge him on such a short amount of time. I feel like you should really allow them to kind of give them a couple of years, at least 2 to 3 years, to see what what they're doing. Now, this isn't me defending Vinay, because I think pretty much every decision he's made so far I have disagreed with. I think Thomas Frank was the wrong manager. As much as in the moment I thought maybe it would work, I think retrospectively looking at it, he doesn't fit the Tottenham DNA. He doesn't fit the kind of where Tottenham should be going. And that's something I've got a problem with. I'm sure everyone watched Andrew's interview. It was damning for the club. And the one thing that made a lot of sense as well is just the kind of contingency plan from manager to manager. There was none. It was always, okay, we're going to go from Pochettino, who was this attacking style of football manager, kind of fit our DNA and our philosophy, to win now managers who play a completely different style of football. Then you go to Ange. Then you go to who's kind of, again, really free-flowing football. Then you go to Thomas Frank, who is, again, the antithesis of that. So it's just, we kind of flip-flopped which way we're going and how we want to build forward, which can't happen. Every manager needs to be with our philosophy in mind and with our DNA in mind. And that's something that I've struggled with Vinay, because I don't think Thomas Frank was the right manager to come in. Then from there, the transfers have not been good enough. Now, we don't know the ins and outs of how much Vinay has in a say in that. We don't know, is that more kind of from ENIC, that ENIC were the ones who probably control the money side of it. And then you've got Johan Lange, who's kind of the person who's supposed to be getting these players in. So I don't know. Again, it's hard to say. It's hard because we don't know. We don't know the the workings of the club. But for me, I'd be happy to see Vinay go and for us to get a new CEO in. I think Johan Lange has to go no matter what. I think we need a sporting director who can actually propel the club forward and actually get players in that are, going to grow the club. Because I don't believe Johan Lange has any way of doing that. He just, to me, I mean, Aston Villa were happy to see him gone. What does that tell you? Like, why did we even get him in? And now we're relying on him. After Prjctspurs gone, we're going to be relying on this guy to get us players. I just don't think there's any chance. So, if I'm honest, I'd be happy to see both of them go. But I think Vinay could maybe be given a little bit more time if you wanted to see how he could do over the next couple of years. But Johan Lange has to go, no doubt in my mind. He's been given enough time and he has not proved anything. And I'm convinced Tottenham probably did try to get a couple of players in this January. I've just got a feeling he couldn't do it. I've got a feeling
he did say in that interview, didn't he, that we weren't just going to make rash decisions and make signings for the sake of making signings. But I appreciate that, Phil. You need to drop off and leave us. Yeah. Any further words before you depart?
I think it's been a really good discussion this evening, actually, around
Yeah.
this. To be honest, both for and against, let's say, and we know we have a lot of challenges in our football club, and they're not going to be solved in the short term. We find ourselves in a situation with 12 games in the league to go and the Champions League where we just need to pick up, let's say, 10 points for the sake of argument, right? And this decision to hire Tudor today will surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people will be very upset with it probably as well. But again, there's a limited amount of choices on the market, and I'd rather we did this than hire a permanent manager now and take a quick decision ahead of Arsenal, make the wrong decision. Like, as long as we get Poch back in the summer, or let's say someone on the level, let's say a Nagelsmann or something like that, right? Then I'm happy. But I think that people might be surprised by Igor Tudor. I mean, obviously we have no idea, and probably every manager is a risk at the moment, right? Whoever comes as an interim, they could sink or swim, right? It's a risk. But
everything's going to be a risk right now, isn't it?
I think that we've obviously betted on, we've put our money on Igor Tudor now, and I think it's a fair bet. Like, I think he's got enough about him that he can come in and do this assignment. Essentially, it's like hiring a freelancer, isn't it? For like a 3 or 4 month project. You've got very clear deliverables. Do it. You'll get paid with a bonus if you deliver the project, and that's what he has to do. And I'm quite confident that he's going to do it. I'm being optimistic about this, but I'm actually quite excited just to see ahead of Arsenal and at the game itself how we come out on that pitch, you know, and how we play in that game, and then obviously do you know what I mean? So I'm looking at
the hope is back, isn't it? There's some hope there again. There's some excitement. There is some Tudor to do, as we will call it.
At the end of the day, the reality is Thomas Frank was likely, if
Tudor to do for his Prjctspurs.
Tudor is to do. Oh god!
You should put that on a badge, on a sticky badge on his thing.
Tudor is to get relegated.
Tudor is to not get relegated. But Phil, we will let you go. Take care.
See you later, Phil.
Joseph, like I said, I'm not massively happy about the appointment. I will, like you, as always, fully get behind the manager or whoever is sat in that dugout, whether it's interim basis or full-time basis, until a point where I physically can't think of any further positive elements of them being there. To be completely frank and honest, with no pun intended, we need more now than ever as a fan base to unite under one person, and that is Igor Tudor. We have to get behind him. Tudor's experience can steady this ship, and Thomas Frank's super tanker definitely needs steadying. It definitely needs it. We're behind him. We have to be. That is the reality. But it's just the unknown, isn't it? That's the biggest worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone will get behind him. It helps that it's an interim basis, because I think people still are holding out that hope that Pochettino will come back. I'll be honest, I didn't like reading Fabrizio Romano's post saying that at the moment the top of the list is Roberto De Zerbi and Pochettino, because I really don't want Roberto De Zerbi. I really do not want him to be a future Tottenham manager. I just don't think it will work. It will just blow up in our face. So I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope it is just Pochettino and that's the way they're looking. But yeah, it's really worrying times at Tottenham, and we've just got to hope and pray that Tudor can get us out of it. Again, do I believe he will? No. I would say I'm more of a pessimistic fan in general. I just am.
Yeah.
I think I've always kind of learned to be like that. Like, for me with sports, it's England, which has never been successful. Well, for me in my lifetime, it's Tottenham, which is an absolute struggle. My local team's an absolute mess, and then my American sports teams is Minnesota, and none of them have won anything in ages. So I've not experienced much glory and much.
I don't know why you're bothering.
No, I don't even know why I'm either. But I'm a true fan. Okay, you got to stick with your teams no matter what. But
true.
With Tudor, I don't. Again, it was that he was only at Juve for 7 months, and for the 7 months I watched, about 3 of them were okay, and the rest were awful. So that's where I'm struggling to believe in him now. If we can just get some kind of bounce out of him, if we can just get something from some of the games, hopefully it will be enough to keep us up. But it's crazy that we're even thinking about a relegation battle. Like, it should never be the case. And it's just scary. It's genuinely scary. I've never felt, even last year, like I always joked about it and said, we could get relegated. We could get relegated. We were lucky that 3 teams below us were Stoke. We can still get, yeah, all right, mate.
I'm not sure Europe is really a possibility. I think,
points-wise, yeah, I get it. I mean, we're not doing anything in the Champions League. Anyone who says we have a chance of winning the Champions League, they're wrong. It's just not going to happen.
No, I think the chance potentially is sneaking into the Conference League, isn't it?
7th,
which is
7th.
So we are 11 points off that.
It's not impossible.
No, but it's a big task.
It's not even. I wouldn't think it was impossible if it was our full strength team. If we had everybody available, I would sit there and go, you know what? I think we could do that. With the remaining fixtures we've got, 100%, I think we have the opportunity to do that. But again, I brought up the injury list just to kind of go through it. And I know people know we've got 12 current injuries right now. Obviously, Wilson Odebear's out. We don't even know how long that's going to be. I mean, he ruptured his ACL.
Well, that's him done, I think. That's an ACL.
Yeah. I know it's him done this season, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's not. He's not tore it. I don't know the difference between like a rupture and a tear or how that works.
Well, the tear is worse. It depends. They do it on grading, don't they? So the tear is the worst. I mean, in a good time, 6 to 10 months, maybe.
Yeah. So you've got Odebear out for the rest of the season. Madison most likely out for the rest of the season. I mean, I know he's back on the pitch, but.
Kulicheski today, there was some videos that he'd circulated, didn't he, on his Instagram of him training in the gym, leg press or doing some squats, and maybe that might be one that all of a sudden just appears.
I mean, that would be great. He's one of my favourite players at the club. I love him. I think he was unbelievable for us last year before his injury.
The good thing there as well, mate, is he played under Igor Tudor when Tudor was the assistant manager
with Andrea Pirlo.
In COVID. So they did that really good. They did a documentary, didn't they? I think it's called like All or Nothing or something like that. It might have been the same as Tottenham ones, and it was following them for the season. There is 1,840 of you watching, which we would really do appreciate you again checking us out. If you can, head over to YouTube, drop us a little like on there. The spelling is at the top right hand or left hand corner, however you're watching this. That'd be good. We are obviously talking the pending, because it's not official, but everybody essentially has said that Igor Tudor is coming to Tottenham as the new interim manager. There is no guarantee that he'll be here past the contract that he's agreed, which is up until June, which seemingly allows the potential return of Mauricio Pochettino to the football club after the World Cup. However, there has been a number of other people that have potentially been linked with the job. Former Tottenham striker Robbie Keane being one of them. I've also seen Oliver Glasner's name reappear recently as well, and Bournemouth's Iriola. Joseph, out of those, let's take Pochettino out of the equation. Is there any one out of those sort of names that would excite you?
It's tough, really. I'm not sure on Glasner. I do like him, but I'm not sure how it would fit in terms of, again, his style of play. Andoni Iraola, I feel like that ship has sailed somewhat. As much as I think people really did like him at first, I think he has had a couple of wobbles at Bournemouth, which is understandable because of all the players he's lost. But it's
does
tough.
It feel like Ariola? Does it feel like Thomas Frank, because he's at a club, they've sold their best player, like Semenyo. They've brought Raya in, right? Who's lit things up. I don't think Iriola's buying them players. That's the club buying it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they got rid of Howson, didn't they? They've got rid of Raya. Not Raya. They got rid of.
They got rid of loads. I mean, Dean Huijsen went to.
That's it, Huijsen.
He went to Real Madrid. You had Zabani go to PSG.
Zabani, yeah.
Kirkes went
to
Liverpool.
And they replaced them. And they keep replacing them.
They have replaced them.
At Tottenham, we're not going to do that. Is he what I'm trying to get at is he the success of how well the club is being run? Because Thomas Frank has come out and said that how well Brentford was run.
Yeah.
and he struggled at a quote unquote bigger club where things weren't perhaps run as well. Would Iraola maybe struggle similar? Is what I'm kind of thinking.
Possibly. I think it's hard to know because I think he was at Rayo Vallecano, I think, before. It might have been.
He's in
It
the
was
MLS as well, wasn't he?
I'm not even sure. I know he was at a Spanish club coming from Spain to England for Bournemouth. I think it's not worth Tottenham trying it again. You know, we just tried it with Frank coming from a team like Brentford and hoping that he would kind of take the step up. I don't think it's worth us doing that with Iraola right now.
Maybe he played in the MLS, sorry, and then he went to Vallecano. Well, he had a couple
Rayo Vallecano.
He was at AEK Lamaca, and he was at Mirandes in Spain. Then he went to Vallecano, and then at Bournemouth. So he hasn't. Yeah, he was out in
it's
New
just
York.
Again, you've got to hope that he can take a step up, which we don't know if he will or not. So it's not the punt that Spurs should really be looking to take. For me, I mean, the managers that I would be looking at are Pochettino. I just think it makes a lot of sense. I think Xavi is still a good option. I'm surprised I don't know what the kind of talk is on what he's doing and what's going to happen with him next.
It's just gone quiet, isn't it? Let's have a look.
I mean, I think Xabi Alonso would be a dream. I just don't think that would happen. I don't think he'd want to take the Spurs job right now. So I think Pochettino makes the most sense. But
De Zerbi?
De Zerbi, it's just I think he would bring unwanted energy to the club. I think it's just the little things we hear about him from what we've seen of him. He's very hot-headed. And at times, I actually like his football. I like the way he plays football. And, I thought he was good at Brighton when he was there. And I thought he was doing okay with Marseille. But it's more just, it's him. It's here. I think he would bring a lot of issues for the club, which I think they probably want to avoid. Like, I would expect if he was to come in by the end of next year or the year after, there will be a Conte rant. There will be something that comes out of him being unhappy about the club, unhappy about players. That's the kind of thing you feel when you see De Zerbi and what he does. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think a lot of us. I know there are people in the fan base that don't want Pochettino to come in, but for me, it just makes complete sense.
I just think it makes sense on a number of reasons that I've said a number of times as well, that he'll unite a large element of the fan base that I think really needs reuniting. I appreciate it's not going to be everybody, but we definitely need it. I think we're stuck as a club, and feel that the leadership at the club is slightly gone, and he'd bring some leadership back, and it also will quieten down and unite a large element of those fan base, and it kind of gives the ownership a little win, and they need that win as an ownership. And I'm not trying to advocate for them as owners and say they're great, but as an ownership, they've got to look at essentially their consumers. Any business needs to look at their consumers and say, Definitely. You need a win. We need to back what these people are wanting. You can't sit there in your home in a home game midweek absolutely pissing it down. Thomas Frank is about to get sacked, and most of the people in that stadium are chanting from Mauricio Pochettino. Yeah. Like, the owners were there. Peter Charrington was there. You can't ignore those things. So to me, yes, I could go back equally as well. I actually went back and looked at some of the earlier squads that he worked with. There was a lot of players that needed to be moved out, senior players that needed to be moved on, and then some younger players to be brought through. It's exactly the same now. We've got a number of senior players that need to move on, and a really strong core group of young players. If we added, he's got Conor Gallagher that he knows really well, and if we added one or two really good senior professionals, could go on to a Mauricio 2.0.
Yeah, I think it is a big win for the ownership, because you think Pochettino has credit in the bank. Fans will give him the time of day. If things aren't going smoothly, there won't be this kind of uproar like there was with Frank. I think we have higher expectations after what Pochettino did for us. But if he came in and said, look, we're going to have to go through a rebuild, this is going to take a couple of seasons, I think everyone would be like, okay, we're on board. We'll sit and we'll allow you to do that. because we know what he's done for us previously. He's got that credit in the bank. I think, again, it will unite the fan base. It will get people around and go, you know what, we're all going to get behind Pochettino because of what he did for us previously. It's the best time I've ever had as being a Spurs fan. You know, it's the best I've ever felt watching Tottenham, wanting to watch Tottenham every week. Because you knew
it was the
what you were
hardest
gonna
time
watch.
to get tickets as well. It was really difficult.
That's what I mean. But you knew what you were going to see because you were going to go see unbelievable footballers play top level football. It was just always exciting to watch. So, you know, I think it's a no-brainer. And again, the one thing that I also worry for is if it isn't Pochettino, are the fans going to back that manager? Because the fact you just said it, Thomas Frank obviously going out the door, everyone wanted him out, but the fans were singing for Pochettino. They weren't saying, I mean, obviously they were singing a little bit, you're going to get sacked in the morning, but the fact that we're singing about one particular man and how we want him to be the manager, it shows that, you know, this is the guy to bring in. Because if you go and bring in somebody else like a Glasner, Glasner hasn't done anything wrong and he could end up being a good manager at Spurs, but are the fan base going to be happy with it? Because straight away, if things start going sour, everyone's singing about Pochettino again.
This is it. He's never. It's like that itch, isn't it? You know, sometimes you have to scratch that itch, and in a way, the ownership can also say, they probably would never say it, but they could, is that look, we've given you what you wanted and it didn't work. And equally, maybe a large element of the fan base, me included, I think I'm probably like the part of the fan base, the fan club, sorry, is it'll allow us to move on. Because as you say, every time it goes wrong, we go, well, why can't Maurizio come back? Why can't we have him back? He was doing something. We didn't back him. We didn't do this. And it allows us a little bit to move on. And I get and understand a lot of people's worries and concerns that, you know, you shouldn't go back, etc. But I always come back to the same argument of there isn't a manager in this world active that I think loves this football club more than him. There isn't an active manager in the world going into a World Cup in the nation that he's managing, a home World Cup, and every time he's in an interview gets the opportunity to talk about Tottenham Hotspur, and his face lights up. To me, you've got to have people within your club that love it. You know, for me, Paul Barber, they should throw everything at getting him back and put him as the CEO. He's a Tottenham fan. He's doing amazing things at Brighton. Get him back in. Let Tottenham people, football people, run that club. That's all that ownership needs to do. It's just go, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, we'll oversee it, and we'll step in when we need to. You're a football player. There's this good saying that I always say, you employ intelligent people for them to tell you how to do the job. You don't employ intelligent people
and tell them what to do.
And tell them how to do. This just doesn't make any sense to me. But I think that it is sometimes you have to take one step back to make two steps forward. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. At the moment, I think it's a risk and a gamble worth taking, because we are so split as a club in terms of our vision, fan base and ownership division, that I think Maurizio coming in allows a little bit of time and allows us to move forward, hopefully, as well. Let's hope that if it does happen, it doesn't go completely wrong.
I just think football is so much more emotional than the owners, the CEOs, the suits actually realize. Football is such an emotional sport, and it's built off of connections and built off of, you know, history and what you see and how you feel. It's not just about statistics and how you can play on the pitch, but also about the feeling you get. I mean, that first 10 games under Ange, for example,
unbelievable.
I've never seen a feeling like that inside a stadium. Like, I've never seen it. It was just complete and utter joy. And let's be honest, like, we did play some nice football, but everyone could still see where things could easily go wrong. But it was just in that moment, everyone had a good feeling. Everyone was positive. Everyone felt happy. And it's like, that was an emotion. The players were feeding off of it. The manager was feeding off of it. We were feeding off of it. And everything felt great. And it's like, football is more than just numbers and what's going on. It's also about the passion. And again, what Maurizio Pochettino can do for us. Again, it's more than just him coming in and directing players. It's about his history and what he's done for the club and how he feels about the club and how much it matters to him. And the fact is, let's be honest, most managers don't have any connection to a club when they go into it. Maurizio Pochettino is somewhat a fan of Tottenham Hotspur. He is basically a fan of Tottenham Hotspur after what he did here. So he comes into it with more to gain than any other manager. He comes into it going, this is my club. It feels like it's almost his club now. And it's like, I am coming here to make these fans happy, to do everything I can to get what I want out of it, which is to win the Premier League. He said that in his but it's also to, again, unite the fan base, get everyone else on board, get the players on board again, get everything feeling better. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I can understand where people, don't go back to your ex kind of thing and don't, I understand that. But I just think it's worth a pump because right now the club is so hollow and so toxic. There's only one person that is going to make everyone kind of come together somewhat again.
It's so split. It is really split. I've never experienced it to this degree before. But obviously he isn't coming back right now. It's not confirmed. It does kind of open up the possibility, given that Igor Tudor's pending appointment as Tottenham's interim manager. Again, he's only got a contract until June. He's agreed to join the club until June, which does open the doors for Mauricio to join.
I really hope if he does do well, Tudor, and obviously, of course, I want him to do well. I just really hope that they just go, this is for this amount of time, and you leave it.
You just know, don't you, that he's going to go on an unbelievable run,
and
right?
then we'll sign him, and then it will be we'll be in the same position next year, sacking Tudor and going, what are we going to do?
We'll be 2 months into the season, absolutely just not performing at all like he seems to do in other places. Mauricio's gone somewhere else, and we're like, fuck. Yeah. we're back to square one. But so there is over 2,000 of you watching. Again, we do appreciate you joining us. If you can, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out. We're going to call it a night. So we've been going for about an hour and a half now, so we do appreciate it. Obviously, let us know on social media. You can find Joseph at JosephTHFC and me at Gary R. Ward. Most of you are watching this stream. Well, 1,900 of you are watching this through my Twitter account anyway, so you kind of know where to find me. So I do appreciate the support we've had. We've been doing this 2 months now, and we're getting some really, really solid, great numbers. So again, thank you so much for that. We might drop in when it's fully announced, just to give some reactions to anything that might be added within the announcement, if it is permanent, which I don't think it's going to be, and potentially people in and out. So we may pick that up over the next few days, but we are back on Monday. We'll be here. I think we agreed 7. I can't remember now.
I'm sure we will be.
6 or 7 o'clock on Monday. We'll be back to all the team together, all 5 of us. We'll have a good chat, probably throw in a few Mr. Motivator quotes as well. But until then, obviously, Tudor is to do. So, ladies and gents, have a good evening. Come on, Spurs.